Some important key concepts about Gothic literature are the sublime, the weight of tradition and identity, the uncanny, and otherness. Following all the synchronicities that I've had this week, I'm going to concentrate today in otherness. And that is because otherness is one of those elements that we can actually also connect with Jungian psychology, and it can bring us some resources for self-development and to understand better what's going on in our psyche. So if you're interested in this video, my friend, in this concept and what it means, otherness in Gothic literature, and how we can connect it with the Jungian lens, this video is for you. Hello friends, this is Alice and you are in Gothic Land. Welcome to episode 9, the advantages of being perceived as a strange, otherness in Gothic literature. And we're going to be analyzing this under the Jungian lens as we've been doing since the beginning of the year, the end of the last one. Why do I want to talk about otherness? Well, otherness is one of those key elements that we need to learn, or we need to analyze when studying Gothic literature. And otherness is important, and the first thing I think of when I think of this word is this lovely animal that we have on the screen. I think of the black sheep. And this has kind of been a synchronicity this week because I have seen people who I follow, psychologists that I follow, using this same image of the black sheep. And I've been seeing it quite a lot recently. And I think there is a sensation, a general sensation that is not new, but there's a general sensation that even though we are surrounded by so much noise and we are part of so many groups and we belong to so many different groups of people and we constantly socializing, we sometimes feel that we are that little black sheep that we have on the screen. This can be because we've been made notified about this, someone has pointed that out, and then we realize that we kind of are different, we don't fit in this social circle or in that space or whatever it is in that group. And sometimes we just feel that ourselves because we can tell that there are differences, that there are characteristics in us, ways of thinking, ways of seeing life, our moral, our code, internal codes, our values that don't really match the rest of the people around us. And if we add to that, for example, like it was my case for some time when I lived in the UK, that you become the foreigner, that triggers so many things on people. I mean, it triggers excitement, curiosity. It can also be, there can be rejection. And this otherness, I think at some point or another in our lives, we all feel this label. We leave this label and it says so much about our psyche, about what's going on in our psyche. And this is what I want to be targeting today, in a way also for you to see the connections with Gothic literature and what the Jungian psychology will tell us about that, but also for you to see the good sides of it, okay? So because we're always trying to find light in darkness. So let's see also all the positive aspects of that. And for that, I will give you at the end, as we elaborate after what is otherness, I will give you like 3 main characteristics of advantages of being the other. So looking deeper into the term otherness, we have that when individuals or groups of people are perceived as different, strange, or outside the norm within a particular societal or cultural context, we are automatically portraying characters or elements that are marginalized, exoticized, or deemed as other by the dominant group, which is something very important. The dominant group doesn't mean that they are the group that is in the right. It doesn't mean that they are the ones with the better standards. It doesn't mean that they are the ones that we should follow. It means that they choose more of them than us. And look at how am I doing this them versus us. This binomial is very important, and it's very interesting how Gothic literature plays with binomials like this one, but also how this is something very important and interesting in Jungian psychology. So otherness then can manifest in various forms, as we said before. So it can be a cultural movement, it could be racial, it could be religious, or even supernatural differences, what we can see. But also in the Gothic context, it is frequently explored to create a sense of fear. This otherness is used to create this sense of fear. We can use it in the benefit of Gothic literature in the text if you are actually writing. Also because it can create suspense, unease, and writers, if you are a writer, you can use these as a way to portray the other, to challenge societal forms, to make people use their critical thinking through this other character that is interrupting the dynamics of normality in the story. But it also helps us question established power structures and explore the darker aspects of human nature, which is what we love doing so much in this channel. So by highlighting all the differences and portraying this other as a source of fear or fascination, Gothic literature often delves into the complexities of identity, cultural clashes, and the consequences of excluding those who are perceived different. The other might be represented as a mysterious outsider, a foreigner, or a supernatural being that exists beyond the boundaries of what is considered acceptable or familiar. An example of this would be Dracula. It would be any image of the foreigner, someone mysterious, someone that doesn't, as I said before, someone that is not from our culture, and maybe even in the communication side aspect, the language could be also a barrier between you and that person. So any element that you can think of that can be a differentiation, and it can be something that is not the same as on the other side, then we have otherness. So to elaborate this a little bit more, just think about it in this way. When you think about the other person, where do you position yourself? As we said before, which part of the other is the other? Even if it's almost like a tongue twister. But if you think about when you felt otherized, or when you've been otherizing other people, why has that been the case? And this is the moment where we go into our psyche, going deep in our psyche. What are the questions? What things came up in your mind? Why were you otherized? What were the causes? What issues were raised? In what, how were they formulated? And when you were on the other side, when you were the other, or when you were noticing that someone was different, what were the dynamics? This is what I'm trying to say. What were the dynamics? And also in Jungian psychology, we will be looking down into archetypes, because at the moment we have this kind of, sometimes this other could be a mirror. It could be parts of ourselves, and yes, in Gothic literature, the beginning of Gothic literature mainly, the monster, this other, was an outsider, something that didn't kind of belong, or we couldn't even compare with because physically it was different. But the other nowadays, it pretty much looks like ourselves, and sometimes it's actually part of our psyche that we take outside and we analyze it, and in cinema we give it a shape and we give it some kind of form. But what happens when this other thing doesn't have a face, doesn't have a shape, doesn't have anything that we can kind of identify with, and we can see? That's very, very, very scary. And thinking about our shadow side is precisely, it brings this fear, this scary, this frightening aspect into the game. So we think about the archetype of the other in Jungian terms. What we have is the sense of alienation, fear and uncertainty, stereotyping and prejudice. It could embody the shadow self, I just said a minute before. It means duality, me versus you. It could do with racial and cultural dimensions. It could also be about transformation if we integrate aspects of this other. And therefore, when we integrate these aspects through this use of these characters, then we go into dialogues of diversity and inclusion. So my recommendation at this point would be for you to analyze, as I said just a minute ago, just to analyze all these dynamics and to stop, take it step by step, because our mind tends to go really, really fast into thinking this. But if you take it slowly and you start thinking about why is this so, you start thinking about what triggers in your mind, and you catch yourself thinking all this stuff, and you write it down, then you're going to start doing a very interesting process that really, really is going to help you with your self-development, because you're going to become aware. And awareness is something crucial in any process. If you feel like you are the outsider and you don't pretend to harm anybody, you may want to consider the following 3 advantages for self-development, although they're not the only ones. There are others, but the main ones I want to talk about today are that considering the advantages of being the other can help you embrace individuality, it can enhance your communication skills, and it can help you cultivate authenticity. And how is that so? Let's stop one by one. So to embrace individuality means that rather than putting towards one side that you are different, that your characteristics or that you seem not to fit in, you actually take that in and say, okay, this is me, this is okay being like this. It doesn't matter that I'm different, it doesn't matter that I speak a different language, it doesn't matter, because I'm an individual with my own qualities, and that makes me different. But at the same time, I'm the same as you guys, just that I'm not exactly identical. And not being identical is good, because then we have variation, we have different opinions, we can look at the same problems and the same things from different angles, and we stop becoming sheep. And in this case, not the black sheep, but the sheep that doesn't really think much for themselves, but they just follow the herd. The second aspect is that you can enhance your communication skills by trying to tell the other person about your otherness, about your characteristics, and about your individuality. You're going to try to be more effective when communicating. You're going to try to use vocabulary, expressions. You're going to investigate. That's going to go and lead you to find videos, to see how the people communicate, to find philosophies, to find ways of thinking, theories, speakers, books. Be careful with what you consume, but all this is going to help you improve your own communication skills. And at the point that you see how the other people react to your communication, and how what you are actually telling and the message, and how it's perceived by a varied variety of people, ages and different ways and different backgrounds, then that's when you're going to say, okay, I have it now. I have improved my communication skills because I've gone deep, and I'm even learning new vocabulary to be able to express all that makes me different, all that is not bad, it's just different. The third characteristic, cultivating authenticity, is basically like a summary of these other 2 points, where basically what you do is like when you do shadow work, which we will talk about that in another video. When you do shadow work, you embrace all your differences, you integrate them, you become authentic when you really live down to your values, your beliefs, and what really moves you, and not because other people want you to do those things and want you to be that way, but because really that way of being, those vocabulary, those ways of thinking, that vocabulary actually really resonate with you. It's true that we might be cloning other people, repeating it with like another person very much, and they kind of find them like a model, and that could be a bit scary sometimes. But at the end, what you need to find is your own authenticity. What is it that makes you different? What is it that makes you unique? A very clear example for me, and it's something that an example that I love to use right now, because I never really talk much about music on the channel, and it's a reference to Ville Valo, who used to be the main lead singer of the band Him, which is like a goth rock love metal band. And there's much going around him. He's very modest. It is Ville Valo, and he doesn't consider himself like the king of goth, but he could be very much. He considers himself like a prince of the goth, or romantic gothic, if we can say that. Romantic goth is love metal. And anyway, he has a video in his last album Neo Noir called Love Letting, and he comes with a little sheep, and I wrote about this in one of my entries on my blog not a long time ago. And for me, even though in one of the interviews he says that he's really the when they make videos, sometimes the video itself doesn't have to do much to do with the song. He always says that he's a romantic, he'll dive in a romantic. But in this video with the sheep is basically because they wanted to use, or he wanted to use animals at some point. But look in here, maybe if that is unconscious mind talking, because the black sheep and his life and his past experience with the breaking up with the band and then coming back solo, for me that makes a lot of sense. Maybe he's not even aware of it. Maybe, a lot of singers, they say, interpret what you wish, what you will with my song. I just write it because this is what I do, this is what I love, this is how I experience, and this is how I experience life, and this is how I overcome my own problems even. But he's not said clearly that's how he feels like. But a lot of his followers have mentioned the sheep thing. He says in recent interviews, and I'm going to leave you some links here to one of the interviews that he made, that the process and what he lived through the pandemic and it coincided with the breaking up of the band more or less, and his health as well. He says the following, and I think this is very important. He says, like a lot of people, I got super depressed. I lost my faith in everything. I got these waves of the past. It felt like Chernobyl in the 80s, when there was a sense that there might not be a tomorrow. And I have pretty severe asthma, so the idea of COVID was kind of scary. My only focus was working on music. That was my lifetime during that time. What I understand here, we could analyze this quote in depth, and what we have on the one hand, fear, health issues, fear precisely connected to his past life, because when Ville Valo was in him, he used to smoke a lot, he used to drink a lot, and he realized because of his health issues that he couldn't go on like that. And there are articles and there are interviews where he talks about the splitting up with the band and everything, and it's very harsh. But actually he went into this period of either destroying himself or learning from that experience. And what he's done with this new album is kind of making peace with the past, I think, because he's still that same, the essence of him is in his new album. Obviously he's maintained the logo. He's pretty much, the music is pretty much the same. It's just that he reconnected with himself in a way that he was made feel the other, even by his own band, when they didn't actually support him as much as maybe he would have expected to. This is what I've gathered from reading a lot of articles and seeing a lot of interviews. But he made peace with that as well. It was a hard moment. It was probably his darkest moment in his career. But then from that, he came back again. It was a bit of an alchemical experience, that he got everything, he destroyed everything, and like the Ave Phoenix that we said before, he became again, he resuscitated from the ashes, and he became in essence what he has always loved being, and that's why he made his music. His music is very similar to what it used to be. In essence, it's him, and that is what connects with the rest of us, because there's something that is very much there from the collective unconscious that talks to all of us, because we all at some point or another we have felt that way with relationships of different sorts. But at the same time, it's very individualistic in the sense of how he always comes across as being himself, and this is very important as well. So as you can see, being the other can work to your benefit, and I think this last example is very, very clear, and it's something that is very close to us nowadays. And I think this is what I want you to walk out with. Otherness in Gothic literature is shown through different characters, through different elements as well. We can identify with one side or the other, and I'm not saying that one is best than the other. Obviously, under our moral standards, we will probably choose certain attitudes, certain behaviors, and we will approve and disapprove of others. Every time that there's harm to others, that will probably, we will actually censor that. But if we're looking at the positive side of things, it helps us create this critical thinking. It helps us look outside the box. It helps us see that not everybody is like we are, that other cultures perceive life in a different way, that our ways is not the only way. Who is really the monster? It makes you change things around. But there's a lot more that we could say. I mean, if you feel like the ugly duckling, think about this story. We've not talked about fairy tales, and fairy tales are very interesting and important in Jungian psychology. But if we look at the story of the ugly duckling, it's just basically what I'm saying to you. Maybe you just the ugly duckling for a while you're growing up, because you're actually not even a duck. You are a swan. You could be a black swan if you want. Anyway, this is very interesting. I think I want to leave it here today, not without inviting you to keep exploring all these items, all these key elements from Gothic literature, by inviting you to my course that has already started, but that you can have access to anyway, because all the modules are recorded. To be with me every month, you can still have the opportunity between now February and June, July, when the course finishes. But the course is recorded, as I said. So the course is called Exploring the Gothic Psyche, and it's a mentoring course for anyone looking for a deeper understanding of how Jungian psychology and Gothic literature intertwine, and to help finding your internal figures. This is for self-development. This is for you to train other people if you are a coach, or if you're a psychologist, to understand better the human mind. If you're an academic, to learn how to connect all these elements. If you're an instructor, if you're a speaker, there are so many different fields, so many jobs that can benefit from this approach, that you will not regret it. And also, since you are here, I want to give you two gifts. On the one hand, I want to give you a quiz that is going to help you understand yourself a little bit more. Do you really understand yourself? And do you really know yourself? And we all think we do, but we don't really. And it explores a few things about your everyday lives, your jobs, and how much you know about Gothic literature, how much you know about Jungian psychology, and how that can actually help you. And the other gift is a free webinar called Exploring the Depth, where it's like the preliminary of the course Exploring the Gothic Psyche. So if you're not sure if you want to do that course, you can watch the webinar. It's free, and I'll be very glad if you can give me some feedback and just tell me if it actually resonates with you. And without anything else today, subscribe, like, share if you think anybody can benefit from this video. And as always, I'll see you next week. And until next video, be very Gothic, my friend. Bye bye.